You're listening to the Mind Your Business podcast, episode number 31. This week's listener question of the week addresses the topic of systems in your business. Want to learn how to manage your time and your team? Well, stay tuned. Hi, I'm James Wedmore, and I've built a 7-figure internet business that offers the financial freedom to do what I want when I want. And I'm the first to say that hard work and hustle are not essential ingredients for your success. So, how do you build a thriving business from the inside out? This is the Mind Your Business podcast, featuring myself and co-host Phoebe Mroczek. All right, it's that time again.
It's podcasting time.
It's podcasting time. Don't laugh at me. It's another question of the week, which I'm loving these. You know why I'm loving these, Phoebe?
Why are you loving them, James?
You know why I'm loving them. Because it kind of takes a lot of the guesswork and the hard work out of creating topic ideas and content. Our listeners kind of just get to run the show and tell us what to talk about.
Totally. I know we have so many ideas. We have like a whole bank of episode topics, but this just when we get to log in and just run with it and see what people want to hear about. It makes our lives so much easier.
It does make our lives a little easier. So thank you, everybody, for submitting your questions. If you haven't submitted a question yet, head on over to mindyourbusinesspodcast.com and submit your question. What kind of question should they be submitting, Phoebe?
Any kind of question, James. We have everything from actual like business stuff to like the very opposite end of like the woo-woo stuff, anything that you really want to know or have questions about or maybe have heard about and have no idea what they were and you just want to hear our opinion. Because obviously we always say on every episode that we're not experts in any of this stuff, but we just kind of talk and just kind of think as we go.
Yeah, none of it's off limits, right. And I love that you just call it the woo-woo stuff.
I'm still learning the vocabulary here.
That is the appropriate vernacular. What we're looking for is anybody who wants to help us, a question that would really prompt a conversation, prompt a deeper thread of dialogue between Phoebe and I. And, we encourage you to look at, what's going on right now? What are you struggling with? What are you uncertain about? Where is there a lack of clarity? Where's a common theme in your life or your business? What's something that just keeps happening? I don't know why this keeps happening. Why? Let's talk about it. Because where we come from and why I started this podcast is because there is every how-to tutorial out there on the internet. How to run a webinar, how to do a sales funnel, how to sell a product, how to create a product, how to do this, how to do that. All the information's out there, people. So why isn't it working? Why are so many people struggling? Why is it so hard? Why do 8 out of 10 businesses fail in the first 18 months, according to Forbes magazine? Because I believe, and this podcast is here to prove that it's not just content that's keeping us from getting what we want. Content alone, knowledge alone is not power, it's just potential power. I think that was Napoleon Hill that said that. But I believe that there is a mindset shift that needs to take place for each and every one of us in order for us to become entrepreneurs, in order for us to become worthy of, or believe that we already are worthy, but believe in the worthiness of who we are, that we are deserving of the results that we are after, that we are desiring for. And we have a lot of programming, our brains are basically computers. A lot of it's not bad programming. It's just programming that might not be appropriate for entrepreneurship and running a business. I mean, our entire lives, all throughout school, we are taught to be really good employees, aren't we? Mm-hmm. And being an entrepreneur is it's completely different. That's why, you talk about the successful entrepreneurs that dropped out of college, that were the rebels, that were the renegades, that became really successful. Why? It's because of that divergent thinking. It's about that against the grain attitude, that questioning of authority that gave them an advantage. And so we really like to look at this from every angle possible. So yeah, we talk about this woo-woo stuff. We talk about things like law of attraction and manifesting, all that cool stuff. Sometimes that jives with people, sometimes it doesn't. But then we look at things like our belief systems and our subconscious mind and the stories we create and the views and opinions we have about ourselves, about business, about our audience, about things like selling and money, our relationship with things like money, and how that affects our world. It affects the results that we have or don't have in our life. And then, of course, we just get to talk about better business practices, things about how to be more effective in business and how to be a better leader. That's something that, man, I've gone on such a journey discovering. I saw something. I know we just get to chat for a little bit here before we get into our question of the week, but I saw a post in a Facebook group about a guy who's kind of like a hater. He was a total negabot. And he's complaining about saying, why would you ever buy an online course? He says, anybody who buys an online course is just showing that they don't know how to Google. Like they don't know how to do a Google search. I laughed at that. I was so sad that that's what people believe, right? That all the information is out there, but having the information isn't guaranteeing anything. You can read 20 books on being a leader. You can know the definition, the habits and principles of leadership, but does that make you a leader? Absolutely not. Finishing a book on leadership does not give you the experience of being a leader. Reading a book, even listening to this podcast on money mindset or wealth management does not all of a sudden put money in your bank account. What's the missing ingredient? What is keeping us from getting the results that we want? What is missing? Because there is something missing. It can't all be found just in reading pages in a book. And that's the ultimate inquiry that we're on. Because then the reverse side of that is, well, you got to hustle. You just got to work harder than the next guy. And you got to work longer, and you got to sacrifice your family and your friends and your health, and you got to hustle, hustle, hustle. You got to work 14-hour days. And we just because I'm definitely the renegade type, I have to question all of that. Come on, really? Is that the only way? Right? So here we are. So this is mind your business.
I think it's funny though when we go through the iTunes reviews, when we're looking at them, and so many people are like, either I've been banging my head against the wall trying to make this work, and I listened to your podcast and here was my breakthrough, or whatever it is, because there is so much content, but everyone just needs, that little, I don't know, like Lisa Nichols, I always have that in my head, the needlepoint move. Like they just need that little extra thing. And I think that so many times I've gotten messages from people saying, your podcast was exactly what I needed at the time and I had no idea. It's like, oh, well, that's perfect, because I think that we are talking about things that not a lot of people are talking about. And that's, I think, what makes this podcast so unique, I hope, at least.
Yeah. But we also get people that, because we're not trying to toot our own horns, but there are also people that are like, what? No, this is ridiculous. Totally. Can't build a business this way, right? Okay. Mm-hmm. So I got to do both sides of the polarity here, okay? All right. And I'll give one last example before we jump into today's fantastic question of the week, which does come from Miriam Schulman. We're going to be talking about systems today. So a little bit more of the nerdy left brain stuff, which I love geeking out on. Okay. So we'll get into that in a second, but I want to wrap up our little rant here with an example. One of my coaching clients has been a good friend of mine for years. He's going to know who this is when he hears himself. I will use total anonymity for confidentiality reasons. But he ran an event recently. And I remember talking to him and nervous about the event, worried about, all the details from just little things like, the logistics of setting it up to how should the day be run, the content, the atmosphere, and he even, made an offer at the event. So he was totally in his head about it. And then I talked to him actually right before we started recording today. And he told me, he said, this event went better than I could have ever imagined. The results were off the hook. And it was the most rewarding experience that he's had in his business. He says, because I got to hang out with people in the room, see the light bulbs going off, see the breakthroughs they were having. I mean, he was telling me a story about how someone literally got to quit their job and do this full time because of his training, and he got to experience that in real time. And of course, I was like, hey, you got all these testimonials captured on video, right? And he's like, yeah, of course. Like,
most importantly.
I've taught you well. And most importantly, right? And, I jokingly tease him and I said, so if you could go back in time and talk to the old version of you, like, what would you say? And he just laughed. He laughed because he knew there was such a contrast. There was such a difference between this previous, I'm talking 3 weeks ago, 4 weeks ago, gentleman who was in his head, worried, nervous, playing out the worst case scenarios. And then this guy he's literally today, you could feel it in his voice, his energy, his tone. He was on cloud 9. And the contrast there was just huge. And he just said something like, I would just grab him by the shoulder, start laughing and saying, dude, this is going to be amazing. You stop it. You got nothing to worry about. And I love that.
That's so nice. I feel like
none of that.
We need more of that.
We do. And the point I'm trying to make with this is that nothing I could have told him would have prepared him for that experience. No amount of books, courses, podcasts would have gotten him to the state that he got to this morning when he called me on the phone, other than him doing the work. He suited up. Sorry, I've been watching How I Met Your Mother. He suited up and he stepped into the arena and he did the work. And one or two things are going to happen. You're either going to get your ass kicked, you're going to come out victorious, or somewhere in the middle, right? Maybe a little of both. But he came out victorious. And so what I want to offer with this story is that what if there was this future version of you, this victorious knight or princess of you that's waiting for you in the future, that has done the thing that you're up to doing, and they're sitting there going, oh, that was amazing. That was better than I could have ever expected. Oh my gosh, why did I worry so much? Why was I so in my head? What would they say to you right now if they were to come back in time to this present moment, having successfully just nailed it out of the park, home run? What would they say to you right now? It would probably be something like what my client said, which was, oh, you got nothing to worry about. This is going to be great. You're going to love it. You're probably in your head a little bit too much about this. I don't know. Something to think about. All right, let's get into today's question, shall we?
We shall.
Okay, so today's question comes from Miriam Schulman. And you can find more about Miriam over on schulmanart.com. And Schulman wrote in saying, I absolutely love Phoebe.
Oh, gosh.
How about that?
That's so nice. Thank you, Miriam.
That's why I read the question this time, because I would love for you to just be like, I absolutely love Phoebe. Jeez, Phoebe.
My face is like purple right now.
I love Phoebe too. Okay, here we go. Genius idea to include her on the podcast. Oh, that was like complimenting me. All right. She is definitely the catch-up to James's mustard. The more the two of you dialogue, the better the podcast is, rather than James teaching. It's basically, yes, she's there to shut me up a bit. So here's Miriam's question. What systems do you use in order to manage your time and your team? I use Asana to make to-do lists for my assistant, but I have trouble doing it for myself as I love improvising.
So the first thing that I see, or when I'm listening to you read that, James, is I see as I love to improvise, or I love improvising. And that just already stresses me out because I know what that's like. And I've definitely been there. And obviously I'm not perfect. I don't have all of this stuff right yet, but I would go back probably like maybe a year ago. And I was having this where my email was my to-do list. I know we talked about that on a previous episode, but I would have that and I would just improvise. And I'd wake up in the morning and be like, oh, let's just go with what I know I need to do. And what that created for me was like a lot of chaos and a lot of, I guess, not much clarity or direction. I knew what to do to, I guess, get the ship going, but I didn't know where the ship was going. So I knew how to keep it afloat, but I didn't know where it was going. I guess that's what I'm trying to say.
I'm glad you pointed that out, because I feel like if that's Miriam's natural default way is like a lot of improvising, no amount of systems or software that we share is really going to help, right? Mm-hmm. Because that's going to put a Band-Aid on a bigger problem that until we solve the actual problem, it's going to be a moot point. So I'm really glad you pointed that out.
Yeah, and maybe I'm hoping with this question that she's saying that she wants to kind of shift into a more systematic approach. And you can improvise a little within the system, and that's the whole point, is the system just gives you direction. And then the improvising can kind of happen in a more systematic way, I guess, is the way that I've approached this whole thing.
Yeah, and you know what concerns me is I understand where she's coming from with improvising. It's an experience of having creativity and freedom in your business. But running a business does take some discipline. The bigger your team gets, the more people involved in your business, the more that discipline becomes an absolute essential necessity. So a book that Phoebe and I have both read that we geek out on is The One Thing by Gary Keller. And this is an opportunity through, the quality of your life is determined by the quality of questions you ask. This is an opportunity for you to start asking some questions that puts a little structure in your day, in your life, and in your business routine so that you can keep the improvisation. Okay, so it's not about replacing it necessarily, but it's saying, well, what if there was some discipline and structure there that, well, okay, once we answer this question, which we'll share the question in a moment, can give you the opportunity to have that improvised lifestyle. And for me, I feel like that's the balance I have. Is so let's ask the question. The question that comes from Gary Keller is, what is the one thing that I can do such that by doing it, everything else becomes easier or unnecessary? And so what I would recommend, especially for anybody else who feels kind of like they're the bottleneck that feels a little unorganized and lack of clarity on what to do in day-to-day in their business. Listen, we've talked about this on other episodes, but there will always be things begging for your attention. Your email becomes your inbox. Facebook becomes the most urgent thing that you need to, oh, someone messaged me, or oh, someone tagged me in a post. Let me do that instead of the most important thing I need to be doing right now. And so when you start your day, when you start your week, by just identifying one thing for the week or up to 3 things, I like the 1 to 3 things in a week that you need to accomplish in order to get you closer to your results, then you start your day focusing on that. Even if it's just an hour a day working on that, then, and that takes discipline for most people. Then you can go out and do the things that you get excited about, that you get passionate about. But when you start your day doing that thing first, I think you're going to put a lot more structure into your day. And when you have that structure, you can be a little bit more loose and fancy free with everything else. I don't know. What do you think?
Yeah, I absolutely agree. And I think the important thing is I had a client once who really resisted any kind of structure or systems. And now when I just heard you say that about the free, like what is the improvisation, it's having that freedom and creativity, which you can have within a system. It's just knowing what the overall outcome of the system is going to get you. So I think that's a really important point. And I know, James, we have so many good things going for us in the business that are working. So do we want to kind of dive in a little bit more into what's working for us?
Yes, because we don't want to hear words like structure or systems and be like, oh, I don't like that stuff. No. That stuff gives you access to the creativity and the spontaneity and the, do what I want. Because there are, we've talked about this, with intuition in business and kind of being guided to what's the next thing. But there's still discipline and there's still structure. And the more you have a team, the more you need to realize, listen, people can't read your mind. They can't anticipate your actions. And if you're setting them up for failure every day, you're going to have some bigger problems on your hand. So as we've grown out my team, this has become something that is extremely important, but it's also really fun. It's really fun for me because it's a game of how can we become more efficient? How can we become a more well-oiled team? So back in January, we started on a new project management software. I've heard great things about Asana. I've never used it before, but I've heard amazing things about it. But we used one that no one's ever heard of. And it's called, worst name ever, by the way. Worst name ever. Dapulse. D-A-P-U-L-S-E. Dapulse. And, I don't know whether I recommend it or not. All I know is that I love it and my team loves it. And we use it, and we use it extremely well. So we're not going to go into full detail about it. But one of the things that's really cool within Dapulse is that we have a weekly task board, okay? So the entire team knows that there's kind of this scoreboard of everything that needs to get done that week, and it basically identifies what the item is. So let's say it's clean the office, okay? I'm just giving a cheesy example. Clean the office, okay? So that's on the board. So people would see that first thing Monday morning. They'd see that all week. And then who is that assigned to? So let's assign it to Phoebe. Sorry, Phoebe. And then there's a due date, okay? So Phoebe needs to clean the office before Friday. The end of day Friday. Okay, but then there's one last thing associated with this task, and that is the status. And the status would be between one of 4 options. So the first one is has not begun assignment, okay? And then the next one would be in progress. And then the third one is usually done or completed. But then there's another option that we threw in there that says needs approval from James. Okay, sometimes things need my approval before they can be called done, okay? And that's specified in the assignment itself. But what's really cool about this is that as my team gets bigger, I need to be able to have a quick glance at what everyone's doing really quickly. And so I can go to this weekly team board and I can see, is everything on track? Is everyone doing what they're supposed to do? Are the things getting done? And are they going to be done by Friday? And it's really easy to see whether or not people are working or not. And I
love
it.
the color coordination also inside to Pulse, because all of those different little headers that you were just talking about, the labels are all different colors. So just at a glance, I can go in and be like, all right, we have majority green, but a couple yellows, and, green obviously is done. And you get like a snapshot right when you log in. So that's really helpful for me.
Oh, yeah. I love that. So what I do is that Sunday or Saturday, usually Sunday afternoon, I take some time. I really answer that question, which is, what is the 1 to 3 big things, the big action items that will move the business down the line this week? Or you can use the one thing question. What is that one thing that you can accomplish? And I identify that for myself. And then I start to identify that for the team. Who could do this? Do I have to be the one doing this? Can I get them to do it? And then I actually give them kind of a rule. It says, hey, you got to have at least 2 things on the board every week. Okay. And so they'll come and talk to me if they need something, or we need to, because I don't want them just sitting there. Right. So by the end of the day, Sunday, we're super clear on what the week is supposed to look like. And then Monday morning, we don't do this every week. It's usually every other week. We do a team meeting, a Monday morning meeting. We like to keep those really short, usually just kind of like, hey, here's the one big thing that we're excited about, and here's why. It's really important to me to explain to my team why I'm making the decisions that I'm making, and what's the vision, and where are we headed, what are we up to. And then we wrap up the week with something that my wife, I get to say that on the podcast.
That just gave me goosebumps. That was awesome.
My wife and her assistant came up with, which is called the Awesomeness email. And I think we kind of stole that from Mind Valley and Vision Lakhani. I mean, they share it so that we can steal it, which is great. But basically, every Friday, everyone writes an email to the whole team answering a couple of questions. And we call it the Awesomeness email. So it's like, what was your big win this week? What were your high points and low points? What are you grateful for? And what are you excited about to doing this weekend?
The last one is always like, I think Dina, who comes up with the question, but it's a random question.
Oh, so that's right. That's new. Yeah.
Yep. A couple, maybe last week or the week before, it was like, if we gave you $10 to spend on yourself this week, like what would you spend it on? And it's just so funny to see people's personalities and what they would, someone said like a trashy magazine, someone else, I can't even remember some of the responses, but I love that because you get to really know the people like inside and out, and you know what people are excited about. We have 2 highs and 1 low for the week. And, I know Jilly's about to get married. And so hearing and she and Chelsea would go back and forth about wedding stuff. So while it is business, like the top half is what are they accomplishing or what's going on for next week that everyone, the support team especially, needs to know about, and just the team in general. But then you get to like really see people's personality. And I think that's part of the reason we do it, which is kind of cool.
Yeah. So these are just examples of how we're creating structure within the team. And you don't have to do this. You could do something completely different. But I think that's the point that we're taking away with this. But then when we're in a project, a launch, or a promotion, things are run a little differently, because there's very different between running the day-to-day operations of a business versus creating something new. Okay. And that's a really important distinction that we learned, that if we're in a launch, like, let me give you an example. If we did an entire project to promote the podcast for 2 weeks, inside the structure of the business, that would look very different than us posting our weekly episode. It's very different, because one is a system that is every week, it's the same thing over and over again. You record the episode, you put it here, edit it there, you upload it there, you get the graphics from this guy, you get the show notes from there, and it's the same thing. It's just rinse and repeat. It's factory. But creating something new takes a very different process. And so we use something called the Scrum methodology. And I believe we've talked about it a little bit in the past. If not, we will. But there's a great book on this called The Art of Doing Twice the Work in Half the Time by Jeff Sutherland. And this book describes how basically most software companies, a lot of them in Silicon Valley, function as a team in order to create projects, get work done, and really create an environment of effective communication and productivity. And so I obsessed over this methodology. I learned it. We used it. I tore it apart, and I put it back together in a way that would work for me, because we're not developing software, and our team isn't the same as a software team. So it needed a few of my own adjustments. And basically, we could have an entire episode about this, but the basic Cliff Note version of it is that we run in sprints, which means we work on a project, 100% of our focus on a project with a start date and an end date. So we'll say, hey, for the next 2 weeks, this is what we're doing together as a team. We start Monday, we end Friday of next week. And there's a very clear start and finish, but there's also a very clear definition of done. So I like to call our DOD, right? What does it look like for this to be done, completed, and live? Maybe it means, well, this is up on Facebook, or the emails have been sent out, or the cart is closed, or something like that, right? And then for those 2 weeks, or 1 week, or 3 weeks, whatever that time period is, we actually get on a call the same time every day during the week, not the weekends. And we have a meeting, everyone on the team. So we've identified who's on the team, okay? And we identify and answer 3 questions, every person. The questions are, what did you do yesterday? What got in the way? And what are you doing today? And what got in the way becomes the most important question that you could ever ask everyone on your team. Because what you're always doing, what you're obsessing about is how can we improve communication? How can we improve efficiency? How can we make this go smoother, quicker, faster, more productive, more effective? And when you address the bottlenecks, when you address the things that are slowing people down, you realize that you can problem solve all of those.
Right, you problem solve and then turn those into other processes or other resources for the team.
Yes, because everything could run smoother. First, people will start saying, well, what got in the way is my mom is in town from, back east, and she was bugging me yesterday. And it's like, no, that's not what we're talking about. We're talking about like, well, I didn't know the password to this, and so I had to ask 3 people. Oh, that's a waste of time not having the passwords. What could we do? Could we create a resource document? Could we set you up on LastPass? And you're always looking for ways to improve that, okay? So very important there. That's what we do during launches and promotions. Now, the last thing we want to talk about in terms of creating structure is that I'm always looking to improve our systems. So obviously, going to the team and saying what's not working, what's getting in the way is a great start. But then I'm always looking for, can it be automated? What can be automated here? Why does it need a person? Humans are inherently flawed creatures. So the more I can remove the humanoid from the equation, the better. The less chance there is for error. And hello, the internet and the software and the technology that's available today, this can happen like you wouldn't believe. So can I give you an example?
Please do.
All right, I would love to. Okay.
No, not today.
All right, here's an example. Let's say we do a product and it's a payment plan. Whether it's a membership course or a fixed continuity, like a 3-pay payment plan, right? So we had a process where if a payment is failed or canceled, let's just say failed, like a failed payment. So here's how that originally worked, is someone would get an email on the team and it would say, payment has failed. Then they would have to remove them from everything inside, like whatever they have access to, and then email them again until they got back on the payment plan, and then give them access again, right? And so all of those moving parts has to be done manually by a human. Even though it doesn't sound like that many moving parts, okay, well, when you have a lot of customers and you start getting people every month that you have to do this for, that process gets yucky fast. Mm-hmm. You're constant, who did I email? Who did I not email? Who did I get payment from? Blah, 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 blah. Human error is going to come in really fast. So we started looking at how can we automate this? So we use Samcart to process our payments. We love Samcart. I love Samcart. So big shout out to those guys. Samcart.com. So that syncs with Infusionsoft. Okay. So for all our right brainers, don't let this nerd you out, like make your head explode too much, but just understand the principle and the lesson behind this. So if someone purchases a payment plan in Samcart, it can automatically apply a tag when they miss a payment. And so what we've done is we've created an automated system in our Infusionsoft account that if that tag ever gets applied, it immediately removes that person from our members area. Oh, no more humans. But then Samcart automatically sends them emails, and our Infusionsoft automatically sends them emails. Those emails have links to get your new credit card info added. And once that happens, it automatically adds them back into the members area. Oh my gosh, completely automated. And that's amazing. Like you have no idea, as your team gets bigger, you have more moving parts. The moment you can have it be completely run automated without a human, it's so much more like...
It's a good day.
Like what happens when someone on your team gets sick or they take time off or they quit or you fire them? Like, oh, I got to train someone new on this process. I got to make sure it's done every single day. Well, it's a nightmare. So that's an example. And so we're always looking, can I automate this? Can software do this? Here's another one. Send out cards. You've used send out cards before, right?
Yeah.
Send out cards is a really cool software/service that you can send thank you cards to anyone at any time and do all kinds of cool things. You can send gifts, books, brownies. Everyone, the send out card brownies are like best brownies you'll ever eat, right?
They're a huge hit with everybody. All the customers, they love that.
They love them. So here's the thing. I remember a time we did a launch and we had 650 new customers. And me, being the really nice guy but total idiot, told my team we are going to write handwritten thank you cards.
Ouch.
Oh, and this was like 2 or 3 years ago, right? I think their hands are still sore from all those thank you cards. And
they quit.
yeah, they all quit. And so, it's a nice touch. 600 some odd thank you cards. Come on. Handwritten, like the whole thing, and then handwritten the address. Come on. That's a lot. So there is a plugin that integrates send out cards with Infusionsoft. So as soon as that sale is made, it automatically sends them a thank you card. And you can actually make it look handwritten, which is really cool too.
And I think that a lot of people, I think that extra touch is really missing, especially in online business. People, well, in my experience, when I've purchased programs, I'll get an email or something. And I think that's what makes the send out card service so valuable, because then you're going the extra mile for your customers. But at the same time, and it's not expensive. They really feel appreciated.
Absolutely.
And it's something going above and beyond what other people are doing. And that's how you want people to see you. But at the same time, like, you don't have your whole team sitting there hating you, shooting you evil looks as they're handwriting thank you notes.
Or some people are thinking, I could do it myself. No, don't do it. Don't. And not for that many people. We've done handwritten things for our inner circle mastermind members and stuff like that. That's 12 versus 350.
Right.
A little bit of a difference there. So then, I'm looking at that. I'm looking at how can software automate this? How can it make our lives just a little bit easier? And, then there's this kind of combination where it's, okay, how can software develop a better system to take the guesswork out for my team? And so that's where training manuals or processes come in really handy. And we've mentioned this resource before, but Suite Process and any kind of screen capture video tutorials. So I remember when I brought Chelsea on my team, we like to go on long walks and, talk out the problems in the business, like what's not working here and how can we do this? And I remember she got me for my birthday. I've told this story before, but I love telling this story. She got me for my birthday, like a 5,000 piece Lego Volkswagen bus, like one of the old classic ones. And we sat there like the nerds that we are for 5 hours. We built that bus from scratch to completion. And I remember we were working out some things with, how to get the team to run better. And I said, look at this bus. It was sitting there right next to us on a shelf. I was like, it looks exactly like the box, right? She's like, yes, it does. I was like, how is that possible? How is it we have no experience? We had no skill. We don't know how to build Lego buses. We don't do that for a living. We hadn't opened to Legos since we were 12. How do we able to do this? And it was like a very easy conclusion. It was like the instructions are step by step. You turn a page, it's very visual, and it's like, add these 2 blocks here. Turn another page, add these 2 blocks. And I'm like, we did the whole thing without making a single mistake, and it looked perfect. What if we could create the Lego instruction manual for our business? We logged into Suite Process, and we did it. I mean, anything from like creating a new product in our checkout software to a webinar or a follow-up campaign, anything. It's a never-ending, ongoing process. We're always adding these, but that's how we look at it now. How can we take the guesswork out of it? How can we take skill out of the equation? So many people are trying to hire for skill and experience. And it's like, Phoebe and I have talked about this on other episodes, but we'll have our brand new virtual assistants from the Philippines who don't have any experience do some of these things for us. How'd they do that? They just follow the Lego instruction manual. Takes a while to create it, but if it's something you do again and again and again, it's totally worth it.
Yeah, and I think I've mentioned on a previous episode, the way that I kind of skirted the system a little bit was, instead of creating my own, what I did is, as I was doing, so for example, inside Real Marketing Insider, the video marketing membership program that we have, I have Princess Pellegrino, who is my assistant. And so what I would do is, when we had to send out like a monthly email that goes out, the first week and then the final week or the last day of the month, what I would do is, I just didn't want to make it difficult for her and really, to be honest, take up a lot of my time showing her in Infusionsoft where to go. What I did was I took Jing, which is a software that sits on your computer and allows you to screen capture whatever is on your screen, obviously. So what I did is I just went through the Infusionsoft process and I was talking her through it. And so I'd just be like, okay, follow my mouse and you'll see I'm going to click over here and then select all these certain tags. And then I'm going to write this and this is what it should look like. And then I said, as you go through and do it, obviously the first one, send me a test so I know that it worked for you and you understood it. But as you're going through it, please create your own sweet process. So for me, it took me, the same 10 minutes that it would take me anyway. And for her, it might have taken her an hour to actually take all the screen captures and really make a nice looking sweet process. But at the same time, she's learning how to do it. She's putting it into practice and I get to review it to make sure that it's correct. So if at any point in the future, she leaves us or we get somebody else or, she's on holiday or something, we can just transfer that right over to somebody else. And it needs to be so basic that anyone can have a look. And that's why I love specifically Sweet Process, because you have the visuals and then you have the actual text alongside it giving people instructions. So that was something that I incorporated into our processes, which has just made the world of difference.
So basically you're saying there is absolutely no excuse why we shouldn't be doing this.
Right. Well, so many people always, come to me and be like, yeah, I want to create that system. It's just going to take forever. And it's like, well, no, just record your screen and give it to somebody that you're outsourcing to, one of your assistants or something, and have them do it. That shouldn't be what you're spending your time on, unless I think what you and Chelsea did with the ultimate webinar process, that was genius. And it was so...
I know. Thank you.
It was just amazing. It just obviously took you a lot of time because I know at the beginning when I was doing them, they take forever. But how long have we been using that now? Since Chelsea came into the business, which
over a year ago.
And we use that however often you do webinars, which is pretty...
It took 2 weeks to do that.
Right.
Totally worth
that.
it. I mean, you guys get this. You want to have more spontaneity. You want to have more creative freedom in your own business. Create more structure. The structure will give you that freedom. Sounds counterintuitive. Sounds like it doesn't make sense. Oh, I don't want to do that stuff. Doing that stuff, creating the discipline to do that can give you a little bit more freedom, a bit more freedom, right? So I think just recapping really quickly, starting with identifying, that's the number one skill, in my opinion, running your business, is being able to always prioritize and identify what is the most important thing. And that, if it's a skill, it means it takes time. It's a muscle. You'll develop it. But that's what we're constantly doing in a launch. Do we really need this? Can we get rid of this? Time is finite and you can't do it all. So you need to be constantly picking and choosing your battles and prioritizing the most important thing. Then as you build out a team, you can start to develop a lot of structure to work with them. I do a fraction of the work that I used to do, but today a lot of my work is around just creating the environment, the parameters, the structure, so that the rest of the team can thrive for me. And that's really fun. So I hope this helped. Miriam, I hope this answered your question. I hope this gave you some clarity, some insights, some ahas. If anyone else has a question about their business around what's working, why it's not working, and they'd like to submit that question so you could be featured on a future episode of the Mind Your Business podcast, well, just head over to mindyourbusinesspodcast.com and you can submit your question there for a chance to get it answered by Phoebe and myself. Every single Thursday, we'll be answering a new question from one of our listeners.
And also, if you are enjoying the podcast and have not yet left us a review on iTunes, we'd really appreciate you going to www.jameswedmore.com/iTunes and let us know what you think. Give us a 5-star review if you want. We read them all and just really appreciate all your feedback and all the things that we hear from you.
Right now, it is the biggest thing that is motivating us to keep pumping out more episodes. This is really just a passion project that Phoebe and I have started. We just love seeing the feedback, the results, the reviews, everything. So thank you, and keep them coming because we have future episodes coming your way. Thanks for listening, and we'll see you in the next episode. Are you frustrated that no matter how hard you hustle, no matter how much you get done in a day, you still feel like you have little results to show for it? Do you feel like you're doing everything right, but there's still something missing? Well, what if there was an easier way? What if your business could be fun, effortless, and profitable. Phoebe and I have put together a free audio MP3 for you, compiling the 77 business affirmations for creating success from the inside out. And we want to give it to you absolutely free. This is your chance to rewire your brain for bigger results in your life and your business. To get instant access absolutely free, simply visit 77affirmations.com. That's the number 77affirmations.com.